And welcome everybody to another episode of Yankees and Gravy. T-minus 0 weeks. The baseball season is here. Can't tell you how pumped about that. I am, as I'm sure you are as well. Open up against the Rays. Looking forward to that. Should be a good series. A lot of people are predicting some big things for the Rays this year. They look pretty good. I think we're up for the challenge, though. Let's get right into it. Pineda, my buddy. I know I've been a little hard on him. I've been very hard on him. I think for good reason, though. I think this guy, through no fault of his own, has a lot of pressure on him, mainly because of who we traded him for. Think about how this whole thing has surfaced. So we trade for him. Nobody knows what's going to go on. Last year, second half of the year, you got to remember these velocity problems and the ineffectiveness started the second half of last year. He was an all-star, unhittable for the first part of the year, but the second half of the year, he didn't do well. So basically, we just attributed to, okay, well, you know, rookies have that happen to them a lot of times because of whether it's fatigue, whatever it is, and he was no different than a lot of people. You don't panic. He's going to be a beast. So we trade for him. Turns out he shows up to camp 20 pounds overweight, at least probably, as well as losing about 6 to 7 miles per hour off of his fastball. Big concerns. Then we're wondering, okay, is this guy just really trying to hold back a little bit for the season? Which is still not excusable because you're on the New York Yankees. If you're not trying to impress when you're on the New York Yankees, then you're not paying attention. But who knows what the deal was with that. Turns out the injury that we found out about could have been why his velocity is down. So that happens. The whole thing that freaked me out mostly because you know what? Physical is physical. Mental is what you really got to worry about, especially with these young pitchers who throw 96, 97 miles per hour. He freaked out in the middle of a post spring training game workout session, whatever it was. 6 or 7 reporters circled his locker, and he just basically turned tail and ran. No explanation. He ran away. He's like, I just wasn't expecting that. That's scary, guys. That's definitely scary. This guy can't handle 7 or 8 reporters. What happens when he's in Fenway Park in the 9th inning or, 8th inning, whatever it is, in a key game in October, and we need him to have that ice in his veins? A couple of reporters scared him away. What the hell is the Red Sox going to do? What the hell is Bobby V going to do? What is Pedroia going to do? All these guys. You got to worry about his mentality. That's why I was just skeptical of the deal to begin with, because this Montero guy is going to be a beast. Everyday players, as long as their body's healthy, they can do what they do. They'll be okay. You hear about it all the time, though. Star pitchers just, velocity just losing. When you can throw 96, 97 miles per hour, that's a very freak thing. You got to think, like, wake up one day and not have that ability anymore. A lot of people only have a certain window to be able to. You hear about Lincecum's velocity went down. K-Rod's velocity went down. Hughes last year. We'll get into Hughes. This is just the out of shape thing, guys. This is what makes me so mad. You talk about Hughes this year coming into camp, and I love Hughes. Looks like a rock, throwing darts, impressing with every outing. Because he's in shape. Last year, he wasn't in shape. They're saying Pineda is this year's Hughes. What are these guys thinking? Where is this coming from where you're a multi-million-dollar athlete getting paid all these dollars, entire legions of fans in your corner, and you think you can show up to camp out of shape? I'm glad Hughes is in shape this year, but who the fuck is Phil Hughes to come into camp out of shape last year? Losing, and that's why they attributed the velocity drop to that, and they attributed the injury to that. This year, it's Pineda. I don't understand, guys. I mean, this is a kid's game. You are blessed to be able to play. Not only play, get millions and millions of dollars to play a kid's game. Why would you jeopardize that? For yourself? But why would you also betray the people that are paying you? The people that are paying to come and see you play? I don't understand it. Maybe somebody can explain that to me. But either way, we'll see how that pans out. They say spring training is spring training for the players, but it's also for everybody, the broadcasters, the umpires, everybody. And it looks like Joe Girardi it's spring training for him in regards to working the umpires. Why is Joe Girardi getting thrown out of a spring training game in the first or the second inning against the Marlins. That's out of control. Joe, are you kidding me? This is the same, and I love. Listen, we'll get into Joe in a minute, but this is the same guy who literally walked off the field as Bobby Valentine is doing all he can to stir up whatever he can to pull out a comeback spring training win against the Yankees, and Girardi pulls the team off the field. A move which I absolutely love, as to be so apathetic to say, who cares? We're the Yankees. We don't care about this stupid spring training game. I loved it. It was one of my favorite Girardi moves of all time. Bobby B. The look on his face in that dugout when he pulled them when the Yankees informed the umpires that we would not be playing anymore that game. Bobby V you could tell he was locked in. He thought he was going to win. He was managing like it was almost like an October game. And the ump comes over. Yeah, the Yanks don't want to play anymore. And Bobby V was just stunned. That was great. I loved it. But why is Joe Girardi getting kicked out of a spring training game? It's funny. I don't care. Whatever. It's funny though. But I guess it's spring training for everybody, including working the umpires. Once again, with the start of the season upon us, the rotation is set. So you have CC Sabathia, Ivan Nova, Kuroda. You have Garcia, who's going to start the season, which, he didn't seem too happy all spring with what's looming in front of him. He does get to start the season. And Phil Hughes. Let's break that down. CC Sabathia, obviously the ace. Hopefully, he's another guy who came into camp in shape. Last year he did the same thing. Hopefully he'll be able to maintain it. Hopefully we also won't mess with him halfway through the year and tell him he's only going to pitch every sixth day. But CC's going to be there. You know that. He's going to turn it. If you notice, CC turns in a few clunkers in the beginning of the year too. So he's going to be 2-2 or something like that in the beginning of the year. He usually is. But then by the All-Star break, he's usually humming along as the best pitcher in baseball. And then you get that little tail off at the end. Hopefully we'll avoid that little tail off. I'm not concerned with the couple of clunkers in the beginning of the year. Every pitcher can kind of go through that. But hopefully he finishes the year stronger this year. Hughes, obviously we covered him before. Looks like he's in great shape. He'll probably have his little... he'll probably get off to his out-of-control start as well. Have those little problems, and hopefully he can battle at the end. Kuroda, I'm very, very interested to see. NL West pitcher. They say, it's going to be harder for him coming into the American League East, usually. It always is, going from the National League to the American League. But they also say he's crafty enough to be able to pull this off. He's got four pitches that he can throw with strikes at any time. And considering the fact that he is from the National League, this guy might be the guy that does have the makeup to be able to pull off crossing over and still being very effective. Garcia, you know what you're going to get from Garcia. He's going to be in every game. He's not going to show you any clunkers, but he's also not going to dominate. So that should be it. Nova's going to be an X factor. I mean, I loved Nova last year. Won 16 games while still spending a good portion of the year in the minor leagues. But so that's very impressive. But you have to worry: is this guy? The spring he had, you got to worry if he's ready to go. Not so much. I don't even worry so much from the physical standpoint, because I think he'll be okay. But the confidence is where you got to worry. After this last Mets game, I guess it's lost in translation a little bit, but he uttered the words, "This is one of the worst days of my life." I'm sure he didn't mean that, but I'm sure he meant it was one of the worst pitching performances of his life. If he says that, what's in his head? You know what I mean? Going into the season, is he going into the season with the right amount of confidence that he's going to need to be the Ivan Nova that we saw last year? But and you have Pettit and Pineda in the wings coming up. We'll obviously see where that goes. Andy Pettit back in the Bronx. We're all pumped up about that. We'll see. I think Andy's going to pitch well. I think he's going to pitch really, really well. I think he's definitely going to have a little bit of a couple of rough starts in the beginning. I think he'll hit his stride. I think he may either get hurt, miss a couple of starts, or hit a wall where he's not that effective. And then I think that he will crush the postseason, as he always does, just by sheer will and being Andy Pettit, who he is. They say his timetable is late April, early May. Somebody's got to go from the rotation, guys. As you know, Andy Pettit is not coming back to work in the bullpen. Andy Pettit is not coming back to to pitch in the minor leagues. It's a minor league contract, but he's not a minor leaguer. If he doesn't pitch effectively for the New York Yankees, he will retire again this year. But I think he's going to do well. I think he's going to be Andy Pettitte. I mean, I think the year off is going to help him out. And I think he's going to do really, really well. I think he might do surprisingly well to a lot of the people who think that, he's washed up and can't do it anymore. Andy Pettitte is one of my favorite all-time Yankees, if not my favorite all-time Yankee. And just based on the amount of times he's answered the bell and given these despite not being a dominant pitcher all throughout his career, a good solid pitcher, Andy Pettitte does one thing. He always pitches good enough to win. And what more could you want in a pitcher? One of my favorite things about spring is seeing the old legends that come by. Yogi, Ron Guidry is always there. And I think that's great that Ron Guidry got shit canned a couple of years ago from being the pitching coach, but it's still kind of no hard feelings. You're still Ron Guidry. We still accept you, welcome you, open arms. Lou Piniella, Whitey Ford, all these guys come back, and I think it's a great thing that they come back. And think about it, if you're like a guy who's going to be playing most of the year in Double-A, which a lot of guys are who are playing with the big club in the spring, you sit next to Yogi Berra, you sit next to Lou Piniella, Ron Guidry, you sit next to these legends, and I think that's a good a reason as any why the Yankees are the Yankees, because they use what they have and the legends and the aura that you only read about. These kids only read about it coming up, and now they're sitting next to them in a dugout. You can't tell me that doesn't have some residual effects on winning over the course of their career, and I think that just kind of creates the chain reaction that just goes through the years of just the Yankees winning, and I think it's great. But it was an uneventful spring pretty much, aside from the usual stuff. And then we had all these injuries. I mean, it's nuts. Like, starting with this freak stuff from Robertson. I mean, moving a box, walking down one stair, and hurts himself. Turns out it wasn't a total disaster. He should be back in the mix soon. Jabba, obviously. I mean, Jabba, come on. I felt very, very bad for him when I heard about what happened. I also felt very, very bad for him when I saw him get emotional at the press conference, talking about how, I love baseball, I love the Yankees, but my son is my son, and that's my life. Great, Jabba, you don't have to jump up and down on a trampoline to show how much you love your son. Keep in mind, your son's got to understand you're a world-class athlete that's paid millions and millions of dollars. Stay off the freaking trampoline, please. I mean, I don't understand it. Jeter got hurt. Jeter's gonna get it. I mean, he's 37 years old. You're gonna have some issues with a 37-year-old body. A-Rod, you gotta watch. Although so far so good. Swisher looks like he's coming back. Got a little dinged up. And then the big one, Pineda. We already talked about that. I don't want to get into that anymore. But like I said, what we thought was going to be a pretty smooth, uneventful spring. It's an old team. You know what? We figure we'll rest guys, relax. Kind of come into the season. Everybody knows what the deal is. We don't need the we don't guys like Jeter and a veteran team like that doesn't need to really embrace the heat of the competition in spring and get into that type of shape. They know the game. They'll be ready to answer the bell when the season starts. You figured it'd be kind of like a relaxing spring, but we've had our share of injuries. I do think, though, however, and this may be the optimistic Yankee fan in me, I don't see a limit on how well they can do. I mean, this could be, again, I don't want to get ahead of myself. Think about if a couple of things fall into place. This could be an all-time team, to be honest with you. And you're going to think I'm crazy for saying that, but I'm glad I'm documenting this because the pitching is not great, but it's very deep. Definitely better than last year on paper. This year, if you have a healthy A-Rod and a Teixeira who can hit for a little bit of average, and then Cano does what he does, Granderson does what he did. Other X factor is I would like for Gardner to develop into a real hitter. I want to lead that into what I think the Yankee lineup should be. Some of you might think I'm crazy, but I really, really think that the lineup should be Gardner, Jeter, Cano, A-Rod, Tex, Granderson, Swish, DH, Martin. I really think Gardner has to put up or shut up and develop into that real prototypical leadoff hitter. He has shown flashes of being able to be a great leadoff hitter, a great speed guy. and then he kind of just gets inconsistent with it. The streakiness is what plagues Gardner. If he can kind of put it together and really kind of take some pitches, get on base, use that speed to wreak havoc on the base paths, and hit in that 270 to 280 area, and get a good 80 walks, 90 walks, sprinkle a couple of bunts in there. You're going to get your 50, 60 stolen bases. Be a good guy for the hit and run when you're hitting ninth. Not ninth. When you're hitting, not when you're leading off the game, when you're coming up in the rest of the game, and you have some guys up in front of you. Just be a guy who can kind of be that guy in the Yankees who you can make some moves with. Basically, is all I'm saying. Sacrifices, hit and runs, this and that. I think Gardner has to be a leadoff hitter. And then if you can get Gardner to be a leadoff hitter and put him in that spot and not have to worry about it, what's about to come up is like something no pitcher should ever have to face. You're talking about Jeter, who's going to hit about 300. Cano, who's one of the best players in the game right now, one of the best offensive forces in baseball right now. A-Rod, who's one of the best all-time offensive players in the history of the game. Now, don't count A-Rod out. A lot of people say, this guy might be, at the end of the day, don't count him out from being able to be called the best baseball player in history. If he's healthy and he puts another 3-4 years together, maybe 5 years together, I mean, we're going to be paying him to do it, so hopefully maybe he can do it to a degree. He still, at the end of the day right now, Albert Pujols ends his career, A-Rod ends his career. Albert Pujols is no A-Rod. I know he's on pace to be better than A-Rod, but at this point right now, he's not A-Rod. So let's see where it goes. A-Rod, let's see if he can hit number 4 and put up another 40 and 120. I don't put it past him. Tex, all he's got to do is get that average up a little bit, maybe a few more home runs. It was great RBI, man. If he can get that average up, be more of a threat from both sides of the plate, that'll be a big help. Granderson, if he does what he did last year, I'll sign on that dotted line right now. Maybe a little bit higher with the average at the end of the year, but that's it. Swish and DH and Martin. Martin, I know you kind of want a fast guy in the 9-hole. Martin's not that fast, but he is fast for a catcher. So I think you sacrifice the blazing speed at the 9-hole for Gardner being a good leadoff guy. That's about it. Very, very excited for the season, guys. Hopefully you are as well. Please find me on Facebook. Please also find me on Twitter. It's Yankees and Gravy. Thanks again. Look forward to seeing you next time.